I awoke late the next morning after restless dreams. I remember groaning as I rolled out of my bed and padded across the floor to pick up my robe. I looked out of the window. The sun was higher in the sky than it usually was, than it should be, when I was getting ready for the day. Ah, consciousness, my old enemy. I felt bleary and distant from myself. Last night's dramatics had shaken me deeply, but there I was, scrambling to return to the relative comfort of routine. The idea of missing service was equally as disturbing as coming face to face with something so unholy. I scrambled to put my clothes on and make myself presentable and rushed out the door, only to see that I wasn't the only one who had slept in. Eustace, Moira, and Charity were standing in a circle around something in the middle of the dormitory. They looked surprised to see me in such a rush. Oh, hello. Oh, where are you off to all of a sudden? I haven't missed service, have I? Oh, bless you. We didn't have service this morning. I think the Superior might still be asleep. I can't blame her. But she meant it when she said Jubilee. I think a day off is warranted, given the circumstances. We can declare it a holiday for Flora. Steady on. I'm not dead. Don't venerate me yet. Oh god, I said that right and she didn't. Don't venetrate me just yet. Venerate. Whatever. The thing these women had been crowded around was in fact Flora, still seated in the wheelbarrow from the night before. It had been dressed up a bit since I had last seen it. A pair of fluffy pillows now lined the barrow, propped up so Flora could look forward while keeping her damaged legs straight and aloft. It looked almost luxurious. Flora's going to need to be wheeled around for a while, but I'm hopeful the leg will mend. Honestly, Eustace, it was clever thinking with those vam braces. I don't know what I was thinking when I suggested the boot. It would have been massive on her. Eustace's knowledge always surprises me. Who knew she was a blacksmith? I'm not. I just picked up a few things at one of my old convents. Ooh, did you do a stint in Italy? I've heard that some of the nunneries there are practically artisan guilds. Yes. This sounds like it beats this dump. Oh, thank God we had a bloomery at all, however ramshackle. I'm not technically minded. I stay away from the fancy bits and bobs we have here. What here counts as fancy? The plumbing, for one. We almost had that clock tower, too. I always forget we have our own water. There are, 3 faucets here? The privy, the kitchen, and, Flora trailed off, but shot me a look I did my best not to return conspicuously. The third faucet, of course, was in my cell. I realized that Flora had likely been subsisting on water and trips to the pantry while she had been missing. It seems like a bit of a waste. The privy has more than just a faucet, and you should be thankful for that. If we didn't have plumbing, I might kill myself. Steady on. I'm the one with the broken leg. I'm the one who gets to say stuff like that. You're supposed to say unalive, Hedwig. Jeez. Don't steal my joke. Oh, I wish you wouldn't joke like that. Either of you. I'm going to kill myself and be venerated, and then I'll be allowed to say it. As it be my holiday. You wouldn't be able to say anything at all if you were dead. I could say it from heaven. Wouldn't you be in hell? Sensing that this back and forth might continue for a while, I smiled at everyone and took my leave. Ah, well, my friends still suck. Everything is back to normal. Great. At the very least, I was relieved to see that Flora was in good spirits. Typical spirits. The late morning sun on the landing was surprisingly bright. There was a pleasant smell on the air. The kind of smell I had cherished in my cell the day after heavy rainfall. It was so thick that I felt like I could take a bite out of it. I opened my mouth and chomped, a bit like that dog I had seen in the village. The fresh air was rejuvenating. I took the stairs down toward the cloister. I knew I had so much to do, so much to be worried about. Firstly, I needed to reiterate to the Superior exactly what had happened. That there was indeed a monster, and that my investigation was effectively over. Was I wrong to think so? Flora and I were attacked by what surely seemed to be an impossible creature. It was certainly not Eustace. Eustace. I frowned as I reached the bottom of the stairs and considered her Misericorde prank. Something was amiss with Eustace. But she was not the mysterious attacker, and the longer I thought about this, the less sense her practical joke made. Was she so cruel, truly mean enough to simply do it for laughs? Or had she earnestly been trying to warn me away from some deeper mystery, as she had told me the eve before? I considered the magic circle and the demon that had attacked Flora and I. There was something nastier afoot here, something evil. I did not like this at all. But I was starting to discover that I did like being correct. And so despite it all, when I broke out of the shadows of the cloister onto the path toward the garden, I was smiling. I caught the scent of fresh flowers on the breeze, and quite overwhelmed by the sensation, took another pretend bite of the air in front of me. Ah! What are you doing? I am... Margaret and Darcy were standing by one of the hedgerows, looking at me quizzically. If Darcy thinks you're being weird, then you are really being weird. Well, the flowers just smell so good. That's true. You might have better luck with your nose, though. They do smell quite good, though I would not mind a bite. See, she gets me. How are you two? Oh, you know, making the most of it all. No use wasting a day off. No rest for me. I need to go get lunch ready soon. Would you like some help? If you don't mind. Hedwig? Of course. I hope it did not sound like I was protesting. Darcy smiled and clapped her hands together gently. Wonderful. We all started walking back towards the kitchen at a leisurely pace. So, Flora's safe. What a relief. Indeed. I should make her favorite, which is, Darcy furrowed her brow and kept walking, evidently rummaging around in her head to remember Flora's meal of choice. Will you be writing all this up as part of your chronicling duties? I suppose I must. I hadn't thought about that. I don't envy you. That's going to be a few pages at least. That's very possible. I do tend to truncate, though. I'll manage. Not one to embellish? Not typically. I prefer to be succinct. Stop giggling. That was true. Back then. Now, one of these days, I should actually read some of your chronicles. Aren't Catherine's gone? I vaguely remembered Eustace refusing to let me see any of Catherine's writings. Yeah, but they go back donkey's years, I think. Well before Sister Catherine's work, even. I'd honestly never considered looking. Really? You never get curious? Or bored? Bored? No. Curious, perhaps, but... this might sound silly, but surrounded by all those books. Quite literally surrounded, there are old chronicles stacked up on the desk. The thought has just never crossed my mind. You're a writer, not a reader. I understand. I've read every book of the Bible, and no short amount of commentary on it as well. After that, what's left of value to read? I did recommend the Divine Comedy, yeah? I do think you might like that. Ooh, yes, I think you did... duck sausage. Flora's favorite is duck sausage. We arrived at the kitchen. I felt a wave of embarrassment as Darcy entered the room, remembering the mess I'd made on the hunt for Eustace's Gay-Lead bowl. What the... Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I forgot to mention this. I knocked over all this cookware last night when I was looking for that bowl to hold... you know, for Flora. It was dark and that cat jumped out at me and there I went. Oh, yes, that cat is a bloody nuisance. I suppose I should thank it for keeping the kitchen mouse free. But I don't remember ever seeing a mouse, and I think I would like it to be cat-free as well. No creatures in the kitchen at all, I should think. Only ones I'm about to cook. Here, here. Darcy bent down to start collecting scattered kitchenware, and Margaret and I quickly moved in to help. Thank you. My back is not good enough to do this sort of thing by myself. You do too much by yourself. Honestly, it makes me feel guilty. I do what I like to do. Company is always nice, though. And between you and me and the pots and pans, the meal preparation is about to get more complicated. Really now? Why's that? I heard we might be getting some new oblates. I dropped the utensil that I've been trying to return to a high shelf. Ah! I'm not as tall as I think. Where did you hear about new blood, Darcy? Eustace has been muttering about it. I think she and the Superior have been discussing the logistics of it or something. Eustace probably doesn't want more grubby little hands touching her books. And when will they be here? Do you know anything about them? I have no clue, I'm afraid. Have fun. You won't be the new girl forever, Hedwig. Indeed. I was distracted, imagining throwing myself in front of whichever cart would be bringing the poor souls to Lynnborough. Surely there were better convents. Any other convents. Communities without whores, ghosts, and dead women hanging around. It's like shuttling a bunch of teenagers to Camp Crystal Lake. What could possibly go wrong? I wonder if their transfers are really new. If the bishop is here, I have to assume they're actually new. She made a cutting gesture with her hand. You'll have to get your shears out for soup, Darce. Oh yeah, I suppose I will. Poor things. Those first few weeks of having a scratchy head are no fun. It's one of the few things I remember clearly that far back. And then the rest of it isn't that much fun either. Bit of a scam, really. Something about Margaret's tone here caught me off guard, and despite the sacrilegious sentiment, I found myself letting out a small chuckle. Whoa. Are you feeling alright, Hedwig? I was bracing myself for some banter. It just surprised me, that's all. And I do feel for new oblates. It probably will feel like some sort of scheme for a while. It would be a scam if it wasn't the truth. That's right, Darcy. That's what I was preparing to say when Hedwig got upset at me. But she didn't. But I didn't. Catherine did say we'd make a Lynborough girl out of you yet. That she did. In truth, I was completely preoccupied with worry. If I hadn't been thinking about the lion's den these new women would be walking into, I probably would have given Margaret the chastising she was expecting. Anyway, keep it secret. It is a secret to everyone until the Superior announces it. Speaking of, is she awake yet? I hope so, or she is going to miss lunch. Hedwig, would you mind checking on her? I doubt we'd hear the end of it if she missed lunch. I'd do it myself, but, well, laying low. Yes, of course. And I can come back to help with cooking if you need me. I think we'll be alright, actually, if you want to go get some writing done before we eat. I imagine we have lots to add today. Oh my goodness, I suppose I do. Chronicling. What an inconvenient task I was saddled with. How would I be able to describe all that had happened the last night? Writing the plain truth as I had seen it would look like the ramblings of a mad woman. Freed from sweating it out in the hot kitchen, eh? Well, lucky you. Go on, then. Margaret shot me a playful grin as I made my exit. The noonday sun blinded me as I left. I was not used to things being this bright after being awake for such a short time. It was a cold brightness. The earth felt crisp and brittle, the exact inverse of how the world had looked and felt only hours prior. My head still felt rather swimmy. I felt calm, but I didn't trust myself. The day was proceeding like any other, but it should not have been. I thought back to the blackness of the night before when I had stared up into the sky, soaking wet and freezing cold. When I shut my eyes and begged for another chance, perhaps I had been granted it. I had escaped the darkness and emerged into this stark world of light. When I arrived at the Superior's door, I was feeling oddly resolute. Things were falling apart, but they had not fallen apart yet. No answer. No answer still. I reasoned that she had already risen and turned to leave. But just as I did, I heard a muffled voice. Who is that? Oh, it's Sister Hedwig, your Superior. I could hear the door being unlocked. Oh, God! Come in. Quickly now. Superior? Quiet, please. Sorry, I should have let you sleep a little longer. How late is it? Just before midday, I think? Oh, good lord. She stumbled over to her ostentatious chair and collapsed into it, then beckoned for me to step up to her desk. How are the others? Quite well, all things considered. Flora is taking to her wheelbarrow with a plum, and Darcy is preparing luncheon. All is right with the world. That is a relief. Ugh. I really should just declare it a holiday. Everyone seems to be under the impression that you did. Oh, that's right. What was it I said last night? Jubilee? Jubilee? She weakly raised her hands and waved them mockingly before collapsing them on the desk and leaning forward. Would you mind letting everyone know I think I may be indisposed for the rest of the day? Of course. But as I said, I think the others might have already assumed the day was forfeit after service failed to happen. Oh, don't be so judgmental. We all had quite a night. I didn't mean... She held her face in her hands and groaned, then pulled her cheeks down somewhat comically, accentuating the bags under her eyes. Ugh. And my apologies. I tend to assume the worst when I'm tired. I need to spend some time with you catching up on... the events. But not today. My mind must repair. I understand. I hope you will be able to be as forthcoming as possible when the time comes. I apologize for my attitude last night, but I can't apologize for the sentiment behind it. I simply cannot deal with any more nonsense, least of all from you. I trust you. I have to. Do you understand that? That's why you're here. I understand that amongst the others, you have a role to play. But when it's just you and me, I expect the truth. And I don't think I should have to demand it from you. It should come freely and without obfuscation. No ghosts. No fairies. No, I don't know, Merlin-esque trickery. Tell me what is real. Yes, Superior. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? Of course, Superior. If I may. The details I tried to tell you... A creaking sound emanated from the room next door. The superior frowned and leaned forward. Not now. I nodded, not understanding in the slightest. The superior rose to her feet, somewhat shakily, and began walking toward the door, speaking louder and clearer than she had before. Please tell the sisters that they have the day off to do as they wish. And do tell Flora that I am relieved beyond measure that she is safe and on the mend. I gave a little bow of my head and exited the stuffy office. I entered the rectory to find the sisters seated for luncheon, a veritable feast laid out in front of them. There were bowls of pottage, piles of roasted carrots and other vegetables, and slices of bread laid out on a wooden carving boards. The centerpiece of the whole affair, however, was Flora, positioned at the head of the table where the superior would typically sit. While most of the sisters were sitting in askew chairs around the room, Moira, Adela, and Catherine were standing next to the poor girl's wheelbarrow. They were helping her spoon stew into her mouth out of a bowl resting awkwardly on her stomach. It was a bizarre tableau. Everyone turned to greet me warmly as I shut the door. Everyone except Angela, who was sitting closest to the door, nibbling away at a small plate of food. I suppose she was positioned as close to the exit as she could be, no doubt to make her one of her dramatic exits if somebody upset her. Ahem. Forgive me, I should not embellish things so. Oh, hello, Hedwig. Welcome, we are celebrating our wounded hero. So I see. How are you feeling, Flora? Can't complain. She was grinning widely. For someone who disliked being around people so much, she certainly seemed to enjoy the attention. She looked like a king on a dais, surrounded by attendants. Oop. Careful. Some of the stew had missed Flora's mouth and landed on her wimple. Moira immediately began wiping at it with her sleeve, which jostled the bowl and threatened to create even more of a mess before Catherine steadied it. Only a few hours had passed without the threat of supervision, and things had descended into total abandon. The superior bade me to tell you all to officially consider today a day of rest. A cheer went up around the room. Well, that's honestly a relief. We've had our hands full helping Flora out. Oh, you mean pushing me around? Am I that heavy? I think that barrel weighs more than you do. It's a good thing I didn't break my leg. I frowned at this. I didn't need to defend Charity from her own jokes, but something about it still bothered me. Sit down, Hedwig. Darcy and Margaret prepared a wonderful luncheon. And since there's nothing else to do today, we can take our time and relax and recuperate. I took a seat and prepared myself a modest plate out of the dishes on offer. Oh, the superior asked me to tell you that she's relieved and happy you're well, Flora. That's nice. Did she tell you anything else, Hedwig? Oh, yes, tell us. I don't think so. What about? Oh, she definitely told her. Everyone save for Angela adjusted their chairs to get a better look at me as I ate. I really don't know what you're hoping to hear. Yes, you do. The new oblates. She didn't say anything specific about new people. But she did say that tomorrow would be a busy day. Oh, that means yes. That means yes. Oh, how lovely. That'll make this winter much less lonesome. Oh, what are we? Chopped liver? No, but you know me. I like making friends. I hope they're closer to my age than you lot. I hope they're closer to my age than you lot. Oh, I don't know. We only have the one extra chair in the cloister. Maybe there's one young and one old. Oh, how would you know? Well, I wouldn't. Spill. Oh, there's nothing to spill. It certainly sounded like you knew something we don't. I know a lot of things you don't. Hi-yo! But I don't know how old either of them are. Either? Either. Either. Look, that's a figure of speech. No, it is not. I do not think it is. I misspoke. She wiped her mouth and pushed her chair out. I'm going to go enjoy this crisp air while I can. Either. 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 The sisters began to chant the word in unison as Eustace left the room. I cannot say for sure, but I think I saw the flicker of a smirk on Eustace's face as she left. As the door closed, the chanting died down slowly. There were a few giggles mixed in too, here and there. A pair of new oblates. They must think we're about to pop at Charity. I just might if they're half as rowdy as this lot. Could you all be a touch quieter? Thank you. No. You're a bit outnumbered, Angela. Don't remind me. She stood up, primed to say something. However, she appeared to think better of it, shook her head, and, well... Look, my observation about her penchant for dramatic exits isn't completely unwarranted. Perhaps we can exchange her with one of the new sisters. Surely there's a convent out there in need of a nosy bitch. Catherine, You're right, I'm being unfair. Angela's worth the pair of them. She comes with two faces, after all. Enough. Am I wrong? Not in the slightest, which is why that's enough. I like it when you and Angela fight. Makes me feel like I'm watching a joust or something. I train my hands for war and fingers for battle. Your mouth, too. Come on, let's go for a walk. Oh dear, I'm in trouble. She's taking me to the gallows. Farewell, my friends. The louder Catherine spoke, the more of the sweet scent of wine I could smell. A day of rest indeed. Can I have your room? Absolutely not. Margaret let her friend out of the room. Whenever I'm voicing Catherine, should I just be voicing her like, hey, let me tell you something right here? Just like just a little buzzed in every single scene. Is anybody else getting a little tired of their fighting? Angela and Catherine? Well, it's a bit complicated. The fighting or your enjoyment of it? Both, I suppose. It is rather funny sometimes. Catherine does have a way with words, but Angela has an iron will. I find it exhausting. I do wish they would just make up. Oh, that'll never happen. Oh, I don't know. Stranger things have happened. Not many. Adela is correct for once. It'd be a miracle among miracles if Catherine and Angela ever saw eye to eye again. Thank you for such a sincere compliment, Marta. I don't know what you're talking about. Que te falo un pez espada. Marta let out a derisive chuckle and waved this apparent insult away with a hand. I am Spanish, Adela. I am well aware. I'm glad you've worked up the courage to insult me in my own tongue, then. Better than muttering under your breath in whatever godless language you usually curse with. Italian? One more godless than that, even. Mulhat. That's the one. You know, just because I like Catherine and Angela's bickering doesn't mean I want to watch this. Change the channel, jeez, this show sucks. You're killing the mood. Agreed. Peace, you two, for God's sake. All's well. I think I finished my lunch anyway. Charity and Marta stood up to leave, Charity looking somewhat apologetic. Oh, goodness me. Oh, goodness me. I thought we were having a grand time until all of that. That is one of the problems with this place. Everyone defaults to cruelty. Well, there must be some way to reduce the prickliness between you and Marta. I will accept responsibility for my own part in our conflict, but I will not apologize for defending myself. The difference between us is that my insults are a reaction to what she says, but hers are a reaction to who I am. Ah. Oh well. I did not wish to bring the mood down so low. I'm going to go work on the sherry since Marta is taking time off. She bowed politely, then took up her leave as well. At least we all still have the rest of the day to relax and enjoy ourselves. Perhaps a holiday is just what everybody needs. How about you wheel me back up to the dorms? I wouldn't mind a nap. Oh, that sounds like a good idea. Do you mind, Hedwig, Darcy? Not at all. Either implies that there are two new oblates, does it not? Sorry, just been stuck on that one for a bit. Oh, that's right. Thought so. Hedwig, would you mind helping me clean all of this up? I'd be happy to. I winced at my own chipper tone. I've been trying my best to trail off less, stammer less. But I was afraid that, in this instance, I sounded as if I hadn't heard about or cared about the awkward exchanges in front of me. No matter what I did, I was always conspicuous. Moira and Flora departed as Darcy and I began stacking up plates and utensils. It took us several trips back and forth between the kitchen and rectory to completely clear the table. I tried to suppress an involuntary annoyance that my day off had become a work day after all. I chided myself for this selfishness as I washed plates in a wooden basin Darcy dragged into the kitchen. The vanity of some of the sisters around me must have been rubbing off on me. Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure. What are you going to do with the rest of the day? Well, let me think. The garden needs tending to. Surely not. Isn't there anything less exhausting you could be doing? You do so much work around here. I hardly think of it as work most days, but I suppose you are right. I like to experiment. Experiment? With my plants. I grow them and pick them and grind them up and boil them and burn them and lots of other things. Sometimes I make things that are useful, like that tincture I gave you the other day. Other times nothing happens, really. But it is all worth writing down. That still sounds like a lot of work to me. Yes, but it's all for me, so I don't mind. I see. That's a good way of looking at it. Is there anything in particular you're working on at the moment? No, not really. I haven't had a project planned in a while. My last big one was something I was working on with Catherine, but, well, we talked about that a bit. Did we? Yes, when we were shepherding. Oh, yes. I remember the surprising sadness with which Darcy had described Catherine's fair-weather fascination with her fellow sisters. We worked together for a bit, and it was nice, but now it's just me. We continued washing up for a while in silence, wood occasionally clunking against wood as I sloshed plates back and forth in the basin. Actually, that's not true. Eustace helps me out quite a bit. Oh, well, that's nice. It isn't quite the same, but I do appreciate it. I'd never seen Darcy in such a low mood, even on the hill with the sheep where she had confided in me about Catherine. She looked positively morose. I suppose she's busy today, though. Would you like my help? Oh, that would be very nice, actually, yes. Oh, wonderful. I mean, I'm sure I don't know a thing about it, especially compared to Catherine, but, well, that is not a problem. I will appreciate just having someone to hold things. My offer seemed to give her a second burst of energy. I could practically see her accelerating to finish the last few piles of washing up. I did my best to finish what I was responsible for. Her energy was boundless compared to mine. When I began to slow down, it seemed like Darcy sped up. I must confess that I had not really thought things through completely when I had suggested I help her. It seemed like a kind thing to say, and therefore I had said it. I had not really expected her to say yes. Oh no, it worked. What do I do now? No, that's not entirely accurate. I had not thought through any possible responses at all. We finished stacking the plates and utensils where they belonged. Darcy waddled away, bristling with energy that I could not match. I followed her back toward the dormitory. We didn't pass anyone on the way back. I supposed everyone's leisure activities were elsewhere. Apologies for the mess. Darcy's room was even messier than I had last seen it. Her writing desk had been moved into the center of the room to hold her little cauldron, and a mountainous pile of tiny glass bottles had taken over her bed. It's no trouble. We will be standing anyway. Would you mind bringing some fire in for the cauldron? How? Just use one of the candles on the mantel. Ah, of course. One moment. Darcy set to work pawing through the bottle pile as I turned back to grab a briquette and candle from the mantel outside her room. I did not love the idea of starting a fire in Darcy's room, no matter how small. But nonetheless, I had promised to help. Someone keeps taking those without telling me. Candles aren't cheap, you know. I wheeled around so quickly it nearly blew the candle I had just lit out again. Oh, I wasn't aware that I had to tell you about that sort of thing. I apologize. You took one? Yes, last night when I heard Flora. Well, I do keep a log of that sort of thing, just so you know. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. I'd understand it must have been a rather extreme circumstance. So, you heard Flora? Oh dear. Yes. She had gotten her leg caught in the big door on the landing. I must have been asleep. It's a good thing you heard it. Indeed. Did you put the other pricket back? Oh, no. I think it might be in my room still. Oh, no trouble. Just put it back when you get the chance, please. What are you doing with this one? It's broad daylight. I'm actually just helping Darcy with something or other. Ah. If you're just lighting something and putting it back, I suppose there's no need for me to log it. Where's this log? I had never seen it. I can make sure to write in it when I take a candle in the future. Eustace tapped her head with one finger. I have a system. Oh. So, I should just tell you? If you could. I will endeavor to do so. Wonderful. Her clipped speech today went beyond her typical standoffishness. Are you quite well? You know, Hedwig, it's funny. I keep thinking that a lot of incredibly stressful things have happened around here lately, but maybe I'm just imagining things. Her eyebrow twitched. It reminded me somewhat of our recent talk in the garden and made me realize what a silly question I had just asked. However, she sighed after a moment and relented. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm feeling a bit stressed today after all that business last night. I'll be fine, though. I'm going fishing. She reached past me to open Darcy's door. Darce, is my rod in there? Darcy does her impression of a microwave. No. Wait, hang on. Yes, it is. Darcy emerged carrying a long, wobbly stick with a long bit of twine fastened to it and handed it to Eustace. Thank you, Darce. No trouble. Have fun. What are you two up to? Darcy had nobody around to help with her plans today, so Eustace looked oddly panicked. Ah, right. I forgot about that. That's all right. I could stay and help if you liked. No, that is fine. Thank you, though. 3 is a crowd. It can be. Well, I'm off then. Bye for now. Eustace looked like she was considering saying something else, but she eventually swallowed whatever it was and skulked out of the dormitory. The earthy scent of Darcy's cauldron caught me a bit off guard as I stepped into her room and closed the door. I couldn't help but cough. Well, it's fine. She can be a bit scatterbrained. Coming from Darcy, this seemed a rather sharp barb. What's this little project you're working on? And what can I do? Well, I have some ingredients sitting around that I never had a chance to try. Due to, well, all of the goings-on recently. And I thought, why not try some today, as we have a bit of a day off? How delightful! What ingredients? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Are we getting into the government shit right now, or what are we doing, Darce? I cannot say. I did not like the sound of that. I like the sound of that! As much as I had already come to admire Darcy's prowess with plants, I wasn't sure I trusted her with unknown ingredients. Or more selfishly, I desperately wanted to avoid being partially responsible for anything we made, should it have some ghastly side effect. I would be nervous about toying around with unknown ingredients without someone I trust as much as you around. I assume none of these plants are, dangerous? Not if you follow my lead. And avoid getting them on your hands. Oh. The little fire beneath the cauldron had brought the little pool of water at the bottom to boil. Darcy produced a small pair of tongs from the writing desk behind her and clacked them together happily. Hey, look, you gotta clack them together. Those are just like the rules. Now, if you wouldn't mind getting one of the bottles of henbane. Which one is that? The sort of green and black one. I scurried over to the pile of bottles on the bed and began pawing through them. How the hell am I going to tell if anything is green and black? It is only black right now, Darce. Unfortunately, most of them fit the description of green and black in one way or another. I'm going to have to take your word for it, Hedwig. Leaves and roots tend to be those colors. While there were a handful of powders and other pigments, most were simply green leaves or furry green stems. One was full of what looked like little wooden balls that rattled when I moved it aside in search of the henbane. There was even a purple flower, which I found rather pretty. I'm afraid quite a few of these are green and black. Oh, sorry. A green flower that gets darker in the middle. Found it. I think? I held up one of the little bottles for Darcy to inspect. That's the one. Put some out on that little cloth and hold it out for me. Is it dangerous? Well, you wouldn't want to rub any in your eyes. But don't worry, we are going to put just a small amount in this concoction. I nervously obliged, uncorking the bottle and gently shaking the little flowers out onto a cloth on the bed that Darcy had pointed to. Oh god, not that many! She picked one of the little plants up with her tongs. Then, with frankly shocking grace for someone with one free hand, she produced a small stone bowl and utensil out from the desk next to her. Next, I'm gonna pull a rabbit out of my hat. We're going to try crushing it and then boiling it with other ingredients. And what will that do? Dunno. My hope is that crushing it will bring the juices out so it'll mix more evenly in the water. She may be inventing Sunny D right now, for all I know. I see. And what will that do? We will see. Darcy, is this a good idea? I have no idea. We spent at least half an hour going back and forth like this. Darcy would call for ingredients that were stashed around her room, and I would have to scramble to find them in time to include them in her clearly spontaneous recipe. I was beginning to suspect that Eustace and Darcy's friendship might be based around having indecipherable systems of organization. Hey, it's gotta make sense to somebody. Eventually, Darcy seemed satisfied with what she had concocted. That looks good. It looks thick. A lot of components in this one. What will it do? That's for me to find out. She began ladling dollops of the slightly sickly-looking liquid into a round glass bottle, similar to the one she had given me before the feast in the Misericorde. You don't expect me to drink that, do you? Oh, I wouldn't dream of it until I had tested it myself. I have a stronger stomach than most. Don't! But she had already tossed the bottle back and gulped down what was inside. Ugh. Could have used some mint for flavor. Next time. I tucked my kettle down around my ears in panic. What if this slimy dark drink killed her stone dead and I was left responsible? I felt like anything was possible at this point. What are you doing? Testing. What am I ought to do? Calm down, please. If you stress me out before I have a vision, that's going to make it really unpleasant. But... Relax. Just relax. I promise I do this all the time. It might not even do anything. I hoped against hope that this would be the case. Whoa. Oh yes, this is definitely going to do something. At what time is it supposed to kick in? Is that a good thing? Won't know till I'm out on the... Oh god. Won't know till I'm out the other side. Just stick close and let me know if I say anything interesting. But Darcy was already off. She turned invisible, apparently. That's some good shit. She wriggled past me and escaped through the doorway, chuckling like a morning bird. The precarious stand that held the cauldron nearly tipped over as she squeezed between me and it. I steadied it as best I could before chasing after her. Darcy, wait, She was already out of the dormitory. I jogged onto the landing, groaning. I really didn't want to do any physical activity today. Ooh. I dearly hoped that nobody would be on the landing or in the cloister. Surely I thought taking care of Darcy was a simple enough job for everyone else. If I couldn't be trusted to do that, what could I be left alone with? I hissed at her in a loud whisper, walking briskly behind as she flitted in zigzag patterns around the landing. Darcy! Darcy! Bad Darcy! Come back! Come back! We need to get you to your room! Why do we always have to go to Mass on Sundays? I want to sleep in. We go to Mass every day. What if I went once a month? Absolutely not! Don't! She had flopped on top of the stone railing already and appeared to be trying to clamber over it. I want to play in the garden. Come down from there, please. We don't need any more broken legs. This was getting too intense for me. If two sisters wound up with broken legs after spending time alone with me, I worried I might end up in the hospitalum cell instead of poor James. She stopped for a moment, straddling the railing and looking quite foolish. Where are we? The second floor landing. I needed time. Oh, it's been about an hour and a half since luncheon, I'd say? I'm hungry. Dinner will be, well, not soon, but not far away. I winced, remembering that any dinner would be Darcy's responsibility. Unless we invent DoorDash 500 years early, I think we're screwed. The others would be furious with me if she ended up indisposed all day. What a treat. I need a treat. We can go to the kitchens and find something if you like. And maybe I could recruit Moira to cut us up some wedges of bread if we ran into her. Oh yeah, delicious, sexy bread. I imagine she would be far better at controlling Darcy in this state than I was, even if Eustace was the real expert. I don't want to cook anything. Well, I watched uneasily as her weight shifted slowly, ever so slightly, over the edge of the railing away from me. In a flash, I remembered something Margaret had said. The cellar! Oh, what about the pantry in the cellar? Salted meat. Yum. With that, she let go of the railing and disappeared over the edge. Darcy! I lunged forward in a feeble attempt to catch her, but I heard the dull wallop of her hitting the ground below before I even made it to the railing. In a panic, I looked over to assess the damage. Darcy had too much grass, and now she is one with the grass. Darcy was lying flat on her back, happy as ever. She stared up into the sky, giggling like a mad woman. Ugh. That was fun. Can I have some of your son's mandrakes? I don't have a Oh. I tried to focus. This charade I could at least follow along with, however humiliating it may be. Is it such a trivial matter to you, taking my husband? You would take my son's mandrakes as well? Have I got a deal for you, if that's what's bothering you? Very well, I thought. I'd assume she might continue apace if I played along with her Bible-quoting game, even if she was in a queer state. Judging by the other sisters, I think she's not the only one in a queer state, Hedwig, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, won't we? I was relieved she seemed to be no worse for wear after falling down, at least. Stay where you are. I'm coming down to get you. What's wrong with tithing dill and mint? I ignored this and scurried back toward the stairs down to the cloister, saying a short prayer in my head that I wouldn't run into any other sisters along the way. Eustace was likely the only woman who could wrangle Darcy when she was in such a state, but I certainly didn't want to be seen mucking it up by anybody else, even if they would have done no better. I sprinted across the cloister path and into the grass, where Darcy still lay flat on the ground with her arms outstretched. Ugh. That did hurt a bit. Please nothing broken. Please nothing broken. Can you stand? Firm in the faith, just like you always say, Mom. Well, I'm glad to hear that, but I am not your mother. Oh, how I wished for this ailment to end. This concoction certainly wasn't providing the kind of results her last one had. When I had stumbled into Darcy and Eustace in the garden, her proclamations had been esoteric, but pointed and dramatic. Here in front of me now, she seemed full of spirits rather than spirit. An annoying drunkard like Flora had been in the Misericorde. But we should get you back to your room.
Oh, the night is young.
I glanced up at the sun in the sky. Well, what would you like to do instead?
I don't know.
Something quiet? Out of the way? I winced as soon as I said this. Even someone in a complete stupor could see through me, surely.
I understand. Sure thing. Whatever you say, boss.
Leave it to me to manage to offend someone in a completely altered state of mind, I thought to myself. Darcy propped herself up slowly, grunting along the way. Me back hurts. You had quite a fall. Are you sure you're all right?
I'm fine. I landed on my big old bum. Plenty of cushion.
She shot away from me with surprising speed. Whew! Wait!
Follow me.
She was running with great haste towards the same hall the Superior's office was in. I panicked and followed her. She's gonna narc! If the Superior happened to step out and see this. Where are you going?
Somewhere quiet and out of the way.
It became clear that she was making headway to the cellar stairs. I gave chase. The cellars certainly were out of the way, but there was a very good chance Marta or any number of the others could be down there, and they'd all see what a bad job I was doing taking care of poor Darcy. I froze. The Superior's door opened a crack. What's going on out there? Darcy had made it to the threshold of the stairs, just out of what I assumed the Superior's view was. I, however, was smack dab in the middle of the path, mid-sprint. Just visiting the cellars.
It's dangerous to run on the stone.
Yes, Superior.
I would have thought Angela would have drilled that into you by now.
I'm a slow learner, I'm afraid.
I'm going back to bed. Please try to keep things to a dull roar.
Of course, Superior.
How many of you are there? There isn't another blasted party forming, is there?
Just me.
Oh, thank God. I will see you at dinner, I'm sure.
She shut her door with some emphasis. It was just in time, too, as Darcy had begun hopping down the stairs one at a time, stomping with both feet.
Up, up, up.
The noises echoed through the entire cellar in waves. If anyone else was down here, our arrival wouldn't have been more explicitly announced. Darcy! Please!
Follow me, follow me.
She waited for me at the bottom of the stairs, staring through me with her glazed eyes. When I caught up to her, she bounded away again toward the rows of barrels deeper in the cellar. I jogged to keep up. As we passed the barrels we had smashed during Catherine's wake, I winced a little. The stone floor was deeply stained. What had we been thinking? Darcy disappeared into the maze of casks ahead of me. There was very little light here, save for cold sunbeams let in through the grated holes around the edges of the cellar's ceiling. Darcy! Where are you going?
I told you, silly. Somewhere quiet and out of the way.
No. It doesn't get much more out of the way than this. I tried to follow her voice, but the echo was impossible to pinpoint. I was reminded of Eustace's bookshelves. The cellar felt impossibly large as I turned corner after corner in search of the irascible Sister Darcy. In truth, we must have been going in circles.
Hello, hello?
She gave me quite a shock as I rounded one last corner to find her waiting. Ah, hello. We stood in silence for a moment. There really must have been no one else here, I thought to myself. All I could hear was the low rumble of the wind outside and the slow creaking of the wooden casks. Well, here we are. Wherever here was. I had no earthly idea why Darcy had decided on a dank corner of the cellars after all of that mad running about.
Here we are.
Her eyes were still not quite her own, but she looked more determined than I had ever seen her before. We stood in silence a little while longer. I could hear what I assumed must be a rat or some other creature rustling in the walls around us as Darcy and I stood face to face. Was there something you wanted to show me here, perhaps?
You could say that.
I thought I saw one of the casks move out of the corner of my eye. What are you... Whoa! She leaned forward suddenly, swiftly, and... I don't know, I sort of... turned my head to the side instinctively, but not quickly enough. She planted her lips onto mine and grabbed my hands in one swift motion, yanking me toward her with some firmness. Darcy! I squirmed, but could not move back. I felt clammy and embarrassed, but Worst of all, one of the cast really was moving. I was feeling too many things at once. I wanted to shove Darcy away and run, but I couldn't leave her behind with whatever monster was about to emerge from the barrel that was opening in front of me. Unfortunately, perhaps, it was no monster that emerged from the wooden door that had swung open while Darcy had been attempting to kiss me. No. The situation was far, far worse than that. Oh! Hello.
Oh, hello, Margaret. Eustace and I were just exploring.
I noticed. Although, Darcy, I don't want to alarm you, but your eyesight might be going.
My what?
That isn't Eustace. Darcy squinted and peered at me. I suppose she finally saw through whatever distortion her tincture had caused because she let go of my hands and took a step back. A sheepish grin crept across her face.
Oh, Hedwig, I am so sorry.
It's no trouble.
This is too funny.
Margaret reached into the barrel she had emerged from to scoop up a puddle of dried meats and hard biscuits. When she stood back up, she must have seen my expression and assumed I was mortified by what she carried rather than the kiss she had interrupted. I was hungry.
Why'd you take the secret entrance? I would have just let you into the pantry if you had asked.
It's more fun this way. Anyway, you were clearly busy. We weren't! I blurted this out far louder than I had intended. Weren't what? Busy? Not really.
What were we doing?
Well, Eustace had plans, so I stepped in to help Darcy with some of her studies. Any interesting discoveries?
This one was no good. Or, well, I don't know. It wasn't bad.
But it did make me think Hedwig was Eustace. That does seem a rather large flaw. I find Eustace difficult to miss, what with the expensive spectacles and all. And not only that, it made you think I was your mother, perhaps?
Hope not.
And a man.
No, I don't remember that.
That doesn't mean much, to be fair. You forget a lot of what these things do to you. Doesn't Eustace typically write it all down?
Well, yes.
Well, you must have thought I was a man just now. Why else would you try that? Margaret and Darcy exchanged an infuriatingly knowing glance. And here I was thinking I was witnessing a cover story unfolding. What?
I definitely thought you were Eustace for the past. I don't know, at least 10 minutes. I was having a wonderful dream, frankly, but I'm sorry for dragging you into it.
A dream where you... with Eustace? I couldn't verbalize it. The pair of them looked at me with a mixture of concern and amusement. I hate that sort of dream. The kind where it's just a normal day and then you have to do it all over again when you wake up.
Well, like I was telling you, me and Eustace are in an odd spot at the moment, so it was nice.
Huh. I was beginning to worry that I was dreaming. If you'll excuse me. It occurs to me that Hedwig never asked to be a detective, and there's a reason for that. She is not good at getting a clue. I wobbled away on unsteady legs, leaving Margaret and Darcy to talk about whatever it was they were going to talk about. I rubbed my mouth where Darcy's lips had pressed against me as I wandered back through the cell towards the stairs. I could still feel the shape of her mouth, could trace the warm, oblong shape of it with my finger on my skin. It gave me the shivers, a similar sensation to rubbing a charcoal pencil the wrong way. I wandered through the cloister for a while, eventually wrenching my hand away from my face to try and appear at ease with myself, even though I was beginning to feel slightly ill. Had I exited my cell into the streets of Sodom? I walked laps around the cloister, fretting all the way. The walls became less and less familiar each time I passed them again. Tears began to well up in my eyelids, although they did not flow freely. They soaked my skin subtly, stinging the corners of my eyes and the little divots in my nostrils. I doubt anyone would have guessed I had been weeping unless they caught my face in exactly the right light, but when I licked my lips, I could taste salt. After countless rotations around the cloister, I took a new turn and broke toward the outer wall, along the path where I had met Catherine some nights ago. Catherine! I sighed and considered all things in perspective. Her sin, I supposed, was at least far beyond Darcy's honest mistake. As honest as one could be under the influence of one of her potions, at any rate. My shock was beginning to give way to simple sourness. I held Darcy in high esteem for her works and visions, but the luster of the latter was beginning to dull. If one vision required 10 bizarre random experiences like the one I had just followed her through, could it really be considered so holy? Moreover, I was beginning to feel embarrassed by my strong feelings. How could I care about this when I knew that there was a true monster inhabiting the Abbey? A real ghost, a real devil. How could we possibly be having a day off? We should have been preparing an exorcism, not running around planting our lips on each other by mistake.
Oh, goodness gracious. You look terrible. As if you just saw a ghost.
I hadn't noticed Eustace walking along the path toward me, still carrying her fishing implements. I snapped to attention so fast that I could see her flinch. Perhaps I have. Well, steady on, steady on. I was only joking. What's gotten into you? Oh, nothing. It's complicated. I suppose it's my turn to be unduly stressed by all that's happened lately. I thought you were heading out to fish. I was going to, but I thought perhaps I should come back. Something felt wrong about leaving when I did. It looks like I may have been right. Perhaps. Well, what are you up to? Oh, I don't know. I was looking after Darcy, but that's no longer necessary, thank goodness. I was just taking a walk to settle down. Well, she can be a handful. How is she? She seems well. Occupied? I would guess so, yes. Margaret wanted to talk to her about something. I see. I suppose I have time to fish after all, then. Would you like to come along? I don't know the first thing about fishing. It mostly involves sitting still. I suppose I could do that, yes. Oh, sitting still, that's where I'm a Viking. Selfishly, I imagine that spending some time away from the Abbey itself might put me in ever so slightly less danger. Want to spend as little time here as possible. That's how I approach work, too. There was no real logic to it, of course, but I held a spurious connection in mind between the demon and the walls of the Abbey itself. Wonderful. The walk to Eustace's fishing spot wasn't too long, but it did take us away from the road onto a barely beaten trail into the woods. The path sloped downward, and was occasionally interrupted by fallen branches and logs that required some effort to maneuver over or around. We did not speak for a while. I welcomed the silence, truth be told. It allowed me to absorb the sounds of the forest. I realized halfway into the journey that I was hearing more new sounds in rapid succession than I had ever heard before in my life. There are only so many sounds within stone walls. Here in the forest, there were creaks, cracks, thuds, groans, and sharp birdsong. It was somewhat overwhelming. As I hopped over a fallen log blocking the way behind Eustace, I experienced an odd sensation. My hands digging into the bark as I adjusted my weight to swing my leg awkwardly over to the other side felt as if they could feel more. I cannot think of a better way to describe it. I know it sounds rather ridiculous, but hearing all of the sounds of the mysterious outdoors, running the rough texture of wood under my fingers, fabric bunching up between my legs as I shifted my weight. It was too much for my soul to bear at once. I felt my eyes flicker upward, and I felt so dizzy that my dismount from the log nearly ended with me face down in the dirt. Are you all right back there? Yes, I don't know. I went a bit funny there for a moment. You look a little off balance. Do you need to eat something? Oh, goodness no. Luncheon was more than enough for me earlier. I think I'm just having a lot of thoughts about being, outside. You've been outside a few times now. The woods are a new place. There's a lot of noise and lots of new things. I just got distracted. Well, that makes sense. She turned to continue down the trail, but kept talking as she forged ahead. You had me worried there. Reminded me of Charity a bit. Oh? I shouldn't divulge, it's not my business, but she's got a condition. Oh no, does Moira know? Yes, it doesn't really matter, though. There's not much that can be done about it. I never noticed anything amiss with Charity. You haven't heard her going out to use the latrine 4 times a night? I suppose I'm a sound sleeper. I could hear a new sound as we continued onward, like my old faucet, but somehow wider, deeper. Like the ocean, but calmer, lighter. Here we are. Why did the music get so ominous? We'd emerged from the tree line onto a grassy embankment. The knee of a modest stream bent in front of us. Eustace put her bucket down and immediately set to work erecting a contraption out of the pole and stick she was carrying. Sit down anywhere. Would you like some help? No. This is just for me. Oh, very well. I glanced beneath me to try and find a good seat, but nothing stuck out in particular. It was all dirt and grass. Just sit. Your bum is going to get soggy no matter what out here. I gingerly sat down. My habit was thick enough that it was surprisingly comfortable. Damp, but not sodden. The cold ground gave me a jolt when I first touched down, but after a few minutes, I was pleasantly situated. I was suddenly revulsed, however, when I saw what Eustace's bucket had been carrying. Ugh! What? They're just worms. Whatever for? She reached into the bucket as if it were nothing, and swiftly plucked one worm out from the horrid tangle. Bait. She expertly speared the creature onto the sharp hook dangling from her fishing pole. My reactions were all over the place today.
I despise looking at the pulsating creatures, but I did not want to see it harmed either. Poor thing. Just wait until you see what I have to do to the fish if I catch one. I squirmed in the dirt. I thought this was meant to be relaxing. It is, deeply. Is this not cruel? I don't think so. But you're killing something, 2 things even. Fish and worms. Are you concerned for their souls? You know as well as I do they don't have souls. Well then, time to relax.
Threw that logic right back in your face, Hedwig.
Threw the hook and line into the center of the stream, then joined me on the ground. You'll soon see. It isn't even about the fish, really. That does not put me at ease. Shh, you'll scare them away. I held my tongue and tried to enjoy our surroundings instead. I leaned back on my hands and looked up into the tree canopy. The sky was a bright, white-gray. It was surprisingly hard to look at it for too long. I'm glad Flora is well. Ah. Yes, it was quite an ordeal.
That ah from Hedwig, even I was like, oh, that's why the music is ominous.
What happened? Well, I heard a loud noise in the middle of the night, and when I went to investigate, I found that it was coming from my old cell. And there she was, sure enough, being chased. I had no reason to lie to Eustace at this point. Unlike the others, she had already correctly assessed what I was up to. After our explosive argument in the garden, the true story would be difficult for Eustace to argue against. I knew she could not have been the ghost. In a sense, she was the only person I could trust with these details. Eustace seemed to know this. Her expression was measured, and she stared at the hook bobbing in the stream rather than turn to speak to me directly. And what was chasing her? A monstrous creature. The same one that I saw wielding that burning blade. He was huge and full of fire, and it smelled of brimstone and sulfur. I knew it couldn't have been you. Eustace rubbed her sleeve against her nose. Brimstone is rather hard to get out of cloth. Please don't joke. So you were menaced by a devil of some sort. Yet here you are. Don't you find that a little odd? Well, you must be strong. I hear demons are quite dangerous. I think Flora and I were just lucky. If this monster is real and wanted you dead, I think it would have killed you. Perhaps it didn't want to kill us. Perhaps it wanted to possess you. I tensed up. My fingers dug into the dirt involuntarily. That did not happen. That's what someone possessed by a demon would say.
Eustace making a lot of sense. She slowly turned her head back towards me, her expression solemn.
As our eyes locked, I felt panic flushing through me. I needed her to believe that I had seen what I had seen, but not like this. Only joking. Uh-oh. So you saw a giant thing chasing Flora. Her leg gets caught in the door, and it just lets both of you go. Is that right? Yes, and I encountered it again in the back courtyard. And you escaped it again? You are lucky. It wasn't so much an escape. It just stood there. And then I turned around and ran. I'm erring toward not believing a word of this again, just so you know. It is the truth. Flora will tell you the very same. Only, don't ask her. I'm sworn to secrecy. I'm not sure how good her word is either, truth be told. She sighed and looked out at the fishing lure bobbing in the water once more. It would just be simpler if you would admit you were horseplaying on the wall and she fell, or something of the sort. Well, that wouldn't be true. Forgive me, but it is all a bit difficult to swallow. How do you think I feel? I think it's easier for you to believe than it is for me. Of course it is. I saw it. That's not what I mean. Never mind. No. Go on. You spent your whole life up until now in a little cell. Reading books filled with demons, miracles, etc. That makes me more reliable, surely. I thought back to when the Superior dragged me out of my cell. I was a pair of fresh eyes on the mystery of Catherine's death. I have as untainted a view of the world as anyone could have. Surely what I describe is as unburdened with worldly context and what-ifs as possible. Do you really believe that? Do you honestly think that your eyes see a clearer truth than mine? Your cell didn't keep you in some fresh, undriven state. In fact, you have more of a bias than any of us. Tenfold, easily. I read nothing but scripture and commentaries. I know, and I am telling you that the scripture and commentary bouncing around in your mind doesn't all add up to zero. They aren't some sort of universal default. Your mind is as full as any of ours, if not more so. Now you're being mean-spirited. No, I am not. Give yourself some credit. Do you have the mind and will of a newborn baby? No. No, you are an intelligent 20-odd-year-old woman. That intelligence might come from a very narrow pool of experience, but it was experience all the same. I suppose I understand. Good. There was a brief pause as Eustace adjusted how she was sitting and squinted into the water, checking the lure for activity. 30-odd-year-old woman, I think. Being cooped up all that time was good for your skin.
I suppose it would be. Hey, ladies, want to have great skin? Just never go outside or do anything. Ever. You'll look amazing. You won't exactly be living, but you'll look amazing.
She lurched forward suddenly, as the string attached to the pole went taut. I touched my forehead in confusion. My skin felt pallid and greasy, as it always did. Another attempt of Eustace's to befuddle me, I reasoned. Girl, embrace the glow-up! She was complimenting you for once. Eustace pulled the line in hand over hand, and eventually dragged a small fish onto the shore. There we are. She held it up by the tail and removed the hook from its mouth. Then, without warning, she smacked it against the rim of the bucket, hard.
Oh wait, I think I can actually... Here, hold on. Yeah!
What was that for? You have to kill them or throw them back. This one looks tasty, so I killed it. Such violence! Eustace sighed and dropped the dead fish into the bucket. I have to admit, I did not foresee fishing being such an obstacle for you. But perhaps that's my fault. There are a lot of things most people don't think about that you're seeing for the first time. Stairs, chessboards, reading customs. Nothing. Have it your way. But answer me this. What are you gonna do now? About what? Don't play dumb. About your Inquisition. Well, I pondered for a moment. I believe I must keep sticking my nose in things. I'm sorry. I can't pretend I'm happy to hear that. But I understand. I would probably feel the same in your position now. All I can do now is ask you to reconsider. To stop. Why? Because you will get hurt well before you find any answers. And you will put us all in danger. This isn't just about you or me. This is about everyone here. You saw what happened to Flora. So you don't believe that I saw a ghost, but you insist that I stop? You speak as if you know what it all means. Must I have stuck my hand into a rose bush to be wary of its thorns? I don't know what it is. I barely even believe you're sure what you saw. But I know that whatever it is, it's no good. There must be some connection to Catherine, though. You keep on mentioning danger waiting for me if I keep following the Superior's orders. And if this is the danger, they must be related. You know something, clearly, so... maybe it is Catherine. What? It makes about as much sense as it existing at all, doesn't it? Say I believe you, wholeheartedly, that what you saw is real. That you and Flora were chased by a vengeful demon. Is it such a large leap to wonder if it's Catherine? Or related to her in some way? Yes, why would it be? I cannot entertain such a dark thought. What possible evidence would there be that I could connect the two? What evidence do you have that it happened at all? Anyway, Flora and Catherine, there is some history there. Unpleasant history. I went cold as I recalled the story I'd heard about Flora being locked inside a trunk by Catherine. One of the hazing pranks, spoken about in irritated whispers by the Superior, had been my assumption. I was vaguely aware of that, actually. So, there you go. I'm not saying that is what it is, of course. But, you know, it is something to think about. What would we do if that were true? What difference would it make if I did or didn't keep my promise to the Superior to investigate what happened to Catherine? When you first saw the beast, what were you doing? I was on the landing. Doing what? Looking for Flora. As part of my investigation into Catherine's death, I suppose. I was worried her disappearance was connected. So, in this scenario, if we pretend monsters are real, it seems logical to assume that you were being warned away from something by the ghost. And what was Flora doing? I don't know, she had been in my old cell. Well, that's very interesting. Follow that thought. She suddenly yanked another fish out of the water. She continued speaking as she inspected the size. Flora and Catherine were very close for a while, until they weren't. There is a connection there. If you want to investigate something, look into that. And then what? And then stop, God willing. And then what? Just wait to die, or worse, when this beast strikes again? I have a theory about that. A theory? It seemed preposterous to me to ascribe any sort of logic to devilry, but I was too curious to object. A dark sense of suspicion, perhaps not of Eustace herself, but of what she knew, began to creep through me. I can't help but wonder if it will leave us alone if things just remain as they were. That seems a tall order when someone might have been murdered. I know. But consider that there had never been so much as a whisper of hauntings until Catherine passed. That isn't true, is it? Darcy makes it sound like this place has always been a little odd, for one. I mean Darcy, no disrespect, but you cannot always take her at her word. Anyway, Catherine is gone, and you keep seeing this monster. And now Flora has as well, if I entertain your story. I suspect she might have been poking around after Catherine's death as well, which is why it attacked her and you both. You really think it could be her? I honestly think I should feel offended at the very idea. Eustace shrugged. Perhaps it's her, perhaps it's simply related to her passing. I'm not too concerned with the actual mechanics of it, to be perfectly honest. I would prefer to stay well away. I've just observed a pattern, and that's enough for me to not want to go chasing threads related to Catherine's death. It should be enough for you as well. Like I told you before. I'm looking out for you, you know. I'm looking out for all of us. I stared into the ripples of the stream, considering Eustace's words. It was infuriatingly rather sound reasoning. Nobody seemed to recognize the ghost I had described on that first night I witnessed it. They concluded it was a prank immediately. Nobody claimed to recognize the creature. And when Eustace had dressed up as that same beast to scare me, it had been based on my description. I recounted the times I had seen the terrible apparition. Outside my window, after the Superior had told me her plan for me. In the hall when I had been snooping outside the Misericorde. On the landing above me when I was observing the sword in the cloister. Looming above me in the garden when I had been looking for Flora. And then finally, of course, the attack when I had finally found her. These, indeed, were all connected to my search for the truth about Catherine. There was one small detail nagging at me, however. When we were traveling back up the mountain from the village, you seemed to hold visions, apparitions, and so on in very low regard. What has changed? A moderately convincing eyewitness account. Isn't that what you've wanted? For me to change my mind? Goodness, Hedwig. Learn to accept victories when you've earned them. Well, that is heartening. I propose a deal. Stay out of it truly for 1 week. If nothing happens, I win. We accept that Catherine's death was a tragedy that affected all of us deeply and move on. If something does happen, I will leave you be. And we can chase whatever this ghost is together. Does that sound fair? I was beginning to lose track of the amount of packs I had entered. I felt a deep unease, but I just couldn't imagine refusing Eustace in this instance. Especially, a dark voice inside of my head whispered, when we were alone in the woods. That sense of suspicion had not been abated by this proposal, and I started to wonder just how much Eustace knew that she was not telling me. A raindrop fell on her hand just as she extended it out to touch my shoulder. Remember, I am trying to help you, and I will, no matter which way things break. Very well then. My stomach churned. I had no intention of honoring such an idea. Perhaps I should have.